make yourself a journal notebook or just a simple notebook which you can use to take down notes in? Well, in this tutorial, I will teach you one of the easiest bookbinding methods called the Japanese bookbinding method, and using that I will make myself a notebook which I can actually use in my class to take down the notes, but as I said, you can use that to make your very own scrapbook. Followed by that, I'll also teach you how to make the cover of this notebook in a very simple manner. So without further delay, let's jump right into the video.
First of all, the things you will need for this project are a stack of papers which you will bind into a notebook and a thin cardboard kind of material. Now if you want to only stick to a scrapbook, so you can only take drawing papers or a cardstock paper which is a little thicker in material, and you can bind them together with the procedure I show. But for me, I want to make a notebook, so I am using a thin cardboard like material which is actually the cover of some old classmate notebook which I had because I was out of the paper, so I'm just reusing them. I'll cover them at the end and we'll see that later. And the other things that are required are basic things like ruler, pencil, scissor. Now we need to punch holes on the paper, right, for binding. So I am using a divider. You can also use your compass from the geometry box. You can use some pin, board pin, anything that you can use at ease to punch holes. Of course you'll need glue at some point. And then for binding, I am using embroidery thread, or you can use anchor threads, and a thicker sort of needle which is mainly used for embroidery. I don't know if you can see it properly, but this is a thicker needle because there will be lots of papers and we don't want our needle to bend through the papers. Other than this, we'll need some paper to cover the cardboard material which you use to cover the notebook, and then maybe some paint and your pencil to draw things or to decorate your cover. Let's start with the binding first. I am using these ruled sheets because I want to make a notebook which I can use for, say, note making or writing some quotes or some poetry or something. So yeah, I need it for writing purpose. So I am using some ruled papers. Now for the binding technique, I am going to go for the Japanese binding, and it's really easy. As huge as it may sound, it's not that difficult, it's very easy. But first we'll take one sheet and measure out which is the center of this sheet, and according to that we will mark the other holes. The very first step to this is you take a ruler and you take your pencil. You have to leave a border, like for example, I have actually kept a bundle of sheets bound for you guys. So this area that you see which I have left, this margin has to be left. So let's say, I don't remember how much I had kept. Okay, that's 1.5 centimeter. So I'll leave the same on this sheet of paper and then we'll proceed. So I'll take 1.5 centimeter here and I measure out 1.5 centimeter at the other end. Draw a straight line. Then I'll find out the center. So the easiest way to do that, of course, is to count the number of lines that we have, the rule lines that we have. So I have 31 rule lines, or I can say ruled spaces where I can write. So I'll mark the exact center of this sheet on this line that I just marked out. So as you can see, I have taken the sheet, found out the center, and with the help of my pencil and ruler, of course, I have marked equal sections on the entire paper on the side. Now I'll use these points which I marked out on the sheet as my guideline and punch holes using a divider. And as I said, you can use your compass or any pointed thing a needle to just punch out the holes. Use this as the guideline and do it on all the sheets. Once the holes are made, you can bind them as different stacks and then bring them together, just as I'll do, or you can even take all the sheets together and stitch them or bind them as one big stack. I am using anchor embroidery thread and a needle, and I am using this thread single threaded without any knots. Now for Japanese binding, we must always be on the safer side and always take extra thread than what is required than to fall short of it. So for this one, I am taking 6 times the length of my pages, so that even at the end some of it is left out. It doesn't matter, but if it falls short, you need to tie a knot, and then it becomes very difficult to pass them through these tiny holes. So I'll just thread my needle and show you how to bind it. So let me just remind you, since these holes are very small, it's really necessary that we use the thread single threaded inside the needle, because if we take thicker thread or make these double threaded or triple threaded, it'll be very difficult to move this through the holes. And also there's no knot at the end or anywhere in the needle, because otherwise it'll get stuck and it'll be very difficult. And anyways, we're using a method which will secure the thread anyways, so there's nothing to worry, and just jump right into the binding process. So this is a stack of 16 papers. I'll take the topmost 8 papers, and from the bottom, I'll figure out the middle hole and pass my needle through it, just like so. Now, as I pull through the thread, I will leave a little part of the thread as a tail at the end, and this tail will help me bind my book and basically complete the binding at the end. And I'll leave this towards the inside of the book. Now, once I have the thread outside, I'll wrap this needle around to the bottom and pull the thread out to the very front. Just make sure when you pull the thread, you're very careful and no knot comes in between, because otherwise it will ruin the entire binding process. So once this binding, the first bind, is done, you repeat the step. You take your needle and put it through the next hole and pass it to the very bottom, wrap it around and bring it to the top. Repeat this until you reach the very end. When you reach the last hole, just simply wrap around the end of the bundle and back through again, and repeat the entire binding process and weave through till you reach the other end. once you reach the other end, you simply wrap around the end as you did it earlier and stitch it back until you reach the very middle hole. Once you reach the middle hole, you simply pull the needle through, but you do not bring it from the front. Instead, you find out where you had begun and left the thread, and you return the needle right there and pull the entire thread through, leaving a tight bound notebook and no thread on the outside. Now once you reach the center, you take this thread and tie a little knot to secure the thread so that it does not come out. You can always be double sure and make 2 very tight knots and cut the extra thread. There you have it, one completely prepared section of your well-bound notebook. Now you can go ahead and bind the rest of the papers and then we'll proceed further. Now that I have 4 perfectly bound stacks of paper, I'll go ahead and take a blank piece of paper and cut a rectangle which is actually small but big enough that it covers this entire area and keeps them bound as one notebook, and then that entire bundle we can stick it onto the cover that we make. Now that I've pasted all these stacks together with these 2 pieces of sheet, let's go on to making the cover. So for the cover, I have taken one of the old notebooks, classmate notebooks that I had, and took out the cover, and actually I have done this already because it's very simple. I have taken the length of my notebook and I have cut the entire cardboard according to my size. Now first of all we'll cover this and make our design, and after that we'll simply put some glue onto this side and stick it onto our cardboard cover, and there you will have the notebook. So first we'll take an A3 size sheet and wrap this cardboard piece up because it has all sorts of things written on it and I cannot draw on it. So we'll wrap it with the A3 size sheet, plain white paper, and I will draw my design on it. You can go for colored paper, colored sheet, design sheets, whatever you want. You feel free to draw whatever you like and whatever you want your notebook to look like. Now once you've covered these cardboards with the white paper as I have done, you can decorate these just in just the manner that you want. Like you can draw on them, use washi tapes, use whatever patterns you might want, you might write some quotes. Like I am going to draw a moon on one of the cardboard covers and a sun on the other, followed by a similar quote on both the notebooks. You can do the same thing, or you can take a design of your complete desire. Let's just do that, and after that's done, we'll attach the notebook, the bound papers that we made into a notebook. We'll put that or paste that inside the cardboard paper. done decorating your cardboard as you desire, like I am not on the 100% satisfaction level, but yeah, nearly satisfied. I might do some precision work, some final touches and all. But yes, once you're done with your cardboard cover and you're completely satisfied, you simply take the stack of papers that you had bound with the Japanese binding method, right? You just take it and add glue to this side, the one which you had put all the bundles together with a piece of paper, I mean two pieces of paper. So you put glue on this side and simply take the cardboard cover, open it and paste it right in the center. And once that is done, this notebook will be complete. So let's just do that really quick. Your notebook. Once that is done, you are completely ready with your notebooks. You can keep it under pressure, like under the bed or something, for say a little while, so that they are completely pasted and well flattened. And once that is done, your DIY notebooks are completely ready.
That's all guys, and thank you for watching my video. Well, for me, this notebook is done, and in fact this is for my best friend's birthday, and my gift for her is done. It's your turn to tell me how you would use this technique to make a scrapbook or a notebook, and when you make it, how you would use it. You would use it for yourself or use it for a gifting purpose. Take down the comment section down below and tell me all about that. Like this video, share this video and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon and stay notified whenever I post a new video. Wait, before you go, have you checked my French playlist already? Well, there's a lot more coming in that playlist also, so stay tuned. Until then, bye bye.